I want to speak about that incident that happened. It took place down there in Holly Springs, Mississippi, at a black bar by the name of CJ's Lounge, where a white supremacist went into that bar being the aggressor and, throwing around that N word and got the brakes beat off of him in that bar by the FBA brothers inside that bar, which he should have. I don't feel sorry for him, no way. The business owner to CJ's Lounge, the black business owner, has since, spoken out in hopes of, clearing the air and setting the record straight. And the black business owner ain't do nothing but substantiate what we on the black FBA grassroots already known to be true, right, and exact, which is that the white supremacist, was the fuse lighter. He set the fuse, which caused the whole string of events to unfold in the way in which they did, because he could clearly be seen on video, partying, shuffling around the bar and having a good old time. The problem came about to where though it was 2 o'clock closing time, and the white supremacists around him, he could clearly see the other patrons, exiting, leaving in the bar, but in typical white supremacist fashion, them always wanting to go against the grain and don't like being dictated, to, how things are going to go down by black society. He decided to be defiant, jumping up in brothers' face, and even can be seen, pushing one of the brothers and throwing around, racial slurs in the form of an N-word on camera. So this white supremacist, got everything he deserves, because what it was he just didn't, being told, to exit and leave the bar, by black people, because in a white supremacist mindset, ain't nothing worse to them than being told what to do by black people, because they think that they can make and break the rules and dictate them at will as they please, they think that they got a free pass to run amok, in this particular day, the white supremacists learned a valuable lesson that you can't come in black society and say and do whatever the hell you very well please, especially not throwing around that N-word amongst us foundational black Americans. You will be chastised. And the valuable lesson this white supremacist learned, came in the form of a good old-fashioned FBA ass whooping. So I don't feel sorry for this white supremacist, no way, but I got the audio and the video of the owner of, CJ's Lounge, trying to clear up the scrutiny that's going on surrounding his business and, hopes of clearing the air and setting the record straight. And we're going to walk through and talk about it how we normally do, family. Fair use.
A Holly Springs business owner is speaking out tonight, telling your news leader the reported beating of a man on Sunday morning had nothing to do with his club. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Greg Hurst.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Skurlock. The owner of CJ's Lounge wants to set the record straight, he says. The incident sparked local and regional outrage after it was first labeled a hate crime. WREG's Mike Sirianni spoke with the owner and has details.
And I'm saying out of my mouth that I'm not closing. I'm going to continue to exercise my beer license and exercise my privilege license from the city of Holly Springs.
I don't like the fact that they're trying to label it a hate crime. This is very dangerous because we in FBA society, we don't hate people just based off of race, unlike white supremacist society, where that's all they do. We in FBA society, we at least give people the benefit of the doubt. We see your character and let your character speak for itself, and if your character shows you to be, an evil person and not true, right, and exact, then we ain't fooling with you. We don't hate people, based solely off of race, unlike the white supremacist society. But let's continue.
As long as I stay in compliance with the city ordinance.
This notice from the city was posted after several code.
And a lot of times we in foundational black American society, we've historically invited, all kind of people to the cookout at our own detriment. I'm so happy that we getting off of that kick, nowadays, to where though we inviting everyone to the cookout at our own detriment. But let's continue.
Code violations and following the reported beating of a Caucasian male outside the business early Sunday morning.
I'm not going to go back and forth about black and white. I'm just saying he was belligerent and aggressive and an agitator and got handled by my security.
At issue is what happened involving the subject, seen in this security camera video, wearing brown shorts, a dark T-shirt, and baseball cap, who reportedly used racial slurs against CJ's staff.
Look at him trying to dictate to them brothers, speak down to them brothers, which is a no-no, you know what I mean? And I ain't giving him a pass just because, he was bloody and drunk, because when you drunk, they say you speak the way you feel in all actuality. It's an old saying, I forget exactly how it goes, but, when you drunk, you really speaking who you are, when you ain't drunk. That's the mindset, and this dude wasn't nothing but a white supremacist, who thought he could come into black society and, dictate what's going on in black society. But he learned quick, fast, and in a hurry that it won't be tolerated. You will be chastised amongst us foundational black Americans. But let's continue.
When the light came on at 2 o'clock with signals for everyone to exit the property, the party's over, he got upset and got in my security/managers. He got in his face and started saying, derogatory language, using it.
He got upset because, in the white supremacist mindset, they don't like being told what to do by black people, but let's continue.
Word, using the N-word.
Fitzpatrick says the man was escorted out of the lounge but came back and was aggressive. He was reportedly seen in the parking lot outside CJ's throwing gang signs.
Look at him pushing the brother. And, they weren't gang signs he was throwing, but what they were on the other hand, I feel, he was throwing up white supremacist hand signs, white supremacist hand gestures. But let's continue.
And they said that the guy swung on one of the other guys who was on the parking lot, and that initiated the fight.
And I've heard, other reports from me doing my little homework and research, that, the security guards inside of CJ's lounge, were exercising extreme restraint when dealing with this white supremacist. They let him, go all crazy at the mouth, saying that N-word, multiple times. He was saying it like it was going out of style. And if he would have said it one time in my vicinity, he would have got chastised quick, fast, and in a hurry. But let's continue.
Fight outside with his clothes being removed and so forth.
Fitzpatrick says to his knowledge the victim was not beaten with a stick or sexually assaulted as investigators have suggested.
See, I didn't, hear him be an SA, but what it is they trying to throw everything they can, to make it stick on this black business owner to where though they can get him at it as a nuisance bar and drive this black business out of business because, brothers ain't SAing nobody, doing this kind of nonsense. This is more so going on, in white supremacist society. They'll do stuff like that, but, brothers ain't on that type of time. So, I heard the reports of, them saying him beaten with sticks and, poles and things like that, which I don't even believe. They even said, previously that they found, guns inside this establishment, which I don't agree, I don't believe, nor do I agree with, and I for sure as hell don't agree with, them as saying, this dude, that's a bunch of nonsense. This is just all being put out there, to create false narratives to where though they can drive this black business out of business, get them as a nuisance bar. But let's continue.
He says what happened is unfortunate, that investigators have not asked to see his video.
To be honest with you, I have to be totally honest. I'm not here to clear up his name. I'm here to clear up.
Investigators didn't want to see, his video as, to put out this false narrative, that they trying to, push it as a, a hate crime, which it ain't, to get this story traction, because, if they could paint it, as a white boy, a black man beating a white man, it being a hate crime, they know they can gain it all sorts of traction. So we getting out here combating this false narrative of this being a hate crime, which what it was a case of is a white boy thinking that, he could come in there, run amok, practice white supremacy and dictate what goes on in, black society. And, the brothers wasn't having it, and he learned a valuable lesson in the form of a good old fashioned FBA ass whipping. And let's continue.
Mine and my business.
For your news leader in Holly Springs, Mike Suriani, WREG News Channel 3.
All right, trying to set the record straight there. And the victim is originally from Ripley, Mississippi. We did find that out, and suffered a broken jaw. Police have one person of interest in the alleged beating.
See, they keep getting these, tethered mammies and coons to get out here on the, and spew these white supremacist talking points to do the job, for white supremacy, because that white supremacy degenerate for sure as hell ain't no victim. The only victims in this case are, the brothers who were the security guards in this, CJ's lounge, and the only one that deserves to be, charged up is, this white supremacist degenerate because he lit the fuse that caused, all of the events to unfold in the way in which they did. Just my thoughts on the matter, but the white supremacist is the only one guilty. Peace.